So, I don't know if you've heard, but apparently the first brain chip created by Elon Musk was implanted and the person was able to move their mouse through thought. And I got really curious about this thing because I honestly didn't even know that a brain chip was in the works right now. I really feel like the time we're living in right now is something pretty special. I have to wonder by the time that I'm like 80, there have been like people who had gone to the moon on like a vacation and stayed there a while. And I was actually so inspired reading about this that I recalled a recent fascination that I had called retrofuturism. And if you don't know what retrofuturism is, let me break it down for you. Retrofuturism, as defined by Wikipedia, is explained as a movement in the creative arts showing the influence of depictions of the future produced in an earlier era. If futurism is sometimes called a science bent on anticipating what will come, retrofuturism is the remembering of that anticipation. This movement was pretty big leading up to the moon landing. I think because the early part of the 20th century saw so much rapid change that a lot of people became very optimistic for what would come for the future. It's pretty crazy to think how quickly we advanced in only about 60 years at that point before the moon landing. Taking a look back at history will tell you our advancements before this time were pretty slow, and I think that's why the idealism in this movement really took off. Now, it can't be ignored that common depictions of retrofuturism center on the 1950s to 1960s. As said before, that's because of the impending moon landing and the general widespread consumerism at the time. This was also the golden age of TV. Advertisers saw this as an opportunity to broadcast their products to a wider audience. Companies showing ways their products will improve and better people's lives now and in the future was becoming all too common.
Busy you, in and out of doors every day. Think how much dust and dirt settle on your skin. And makeup clings to your skin too and clogs pores. That's why your face needs a thorough cleansing each day. And that's why cleansing tests were made by an independent testing laboratory. This same kind of dirt was made just radioactive enough to register on a Geiger counter.
And though the 50s and 60s were major for retrofuturism, the early 1900s also had their heyday in retrofuturism as well. Taking a look at certain illustrations during the time, we can see the interesting ways people imagine the future. The designs thought up appear much more archaic and angular and a bit gawky. There's not the seamless, curved designs thought up much later in the 60s. Curvaceous design didn't really gain popularity until this time, as mid-century modern took a hold of the interior design world. The mid-century modern movement in the US was inspired by design movements like International and Bauhaus, which emphasized simplicity and functionality. It had a more relaxed and natural feel compared to the International style, but was still closely connected to it. Brazilian and Scandinavian architects also had a big influence, focusing on simple designs that blended with nature. Mid-century design, often seen in suburban homes after World War II, aimed to bring modern design to everyday living spaces, much like the designs of Frank Lloyd Wright. A lot of people have pretty strong opinions about modern design. Some people love it and some people hate it. And it's important to note that modern design is really in its infant stages. The birth of modern design was wrought with experimentations and, even ugly designs. I like to think that we've refined it a little bit more, as more buildings now have a better balance between modernist styles and more traditional ones. But if I'm honest, I don't think we're anywhere near close to the perfect balance yet. There's still a lot of buildings with awkward asymmetry, strange proportions, and not enough warmth. So what do we see with blending nature into design? Well, a lot of curves. I would say this is definitely the hallmark of mid-century design, and I think if done well, it's really beautiful. But I'm gonna go a step further than this. Yes, mid-century modern was definitely influenced by nature with all its organic curves, but mid-century modern was also characterized by clean, simple lines and plain geometric shaping. There was a desire to leave behind the ornate in an effort to embrace a sleeker and cleaner design. And it's these properties that make me wonder if there's some intersection between mid-century modern design and unidentified flying objects, otherwise known as UFOs. It was during this time that the Betty and Barney Hill incident came to the forefront of American minds. Now, Betty and Barney Hill were an American couple who claimed that they were abducted by extraterrestrials in a rural portion of the state of New Hampshire from September 19th to 20th, 1961. And it was this incident that was the first of many alien abduction stories that really pushed interest into the area of UFOs, aliens, and what else could be out there in the universe. So it's easy to see why retro-futuristic designs at this time feature a lot of the same characteristics as UFOs. But it's this incident that also brings the idea of the flying saucer into popularity as well.
In France, like America, the flying saucer mystery makes headlines. A young Frenchman photographed this flying saucer, or is it, from a mountainside in central France.
They always seem to be circular, sleek, metallic, and modernistic. So I think it's this fascination with the possibility of aliens and the space race to the moon and the very rapid technological advancement that brought out this new modernist style marked by simple lines, curves, and an interest in new materials in architecture and material design. Now, looking at the imagined ways the future advancements would make our lives easier is pretty interesting.
A multicolored highway system may enable the motorist to reach his destination by following the correct color strip. The increased speed of tomorrow's automobile will demand that highway signs be larger and more simple to read.
A lot of them were pretty good ideas. I, for one, would love colored highways. No fear of getting off on the wrong exit. You could clearly see ahead with colored highways. However, this idea seems kinda outdated considering we have GPS to direct us and self-driving cars soon to come. And considering roads are paid with tax dollars, there wouldn't be much of a motivation to improve them, as most improvements have money as a motivator. And now we have this new dilemma with AI. I saw a new Business Insider article recently titled, "A global scramble to make humanoid robots is gearing up to be the 21st century space race." There's a lot of concern that's come up recently with AI and the possibility of AI going terribly wrong.
Well, I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans in a conversational manner.
But the development of humanoid robots are also a strong signifier of scientific competence. Imagining a world run by very smart robots to do the work humans don't want to do sounds like a dream paradise to some, and I think that's why a lot of countries are in a rush to get on with it. It's a status symbol, a power move to be at the forefront of this. And it makes me wonder how the world will look, say, 100 years from now. Brain chips, AI, it really does sound like science fiction. I recall when cell phones first took off, and parents complained about teens ignoring them in favor of the screen in their hands. Texting was a big issue, but what would happen with a brain chip? Would we even need to talk? I wonder if language would become obsolete considering the internet would be in our brains. And this future would obviously include AI. I wonder if factory jobs would go away eventually in favor of robots. But we all know, I think instinctively, that if workers are cheap enough, they will never be replaced by automation. And to me, that's a sad fact. Since the introduction of the division of labor, people in these jobs have been taken advantage of in ways we couldn't imagine. Low pay, long hours, tedious work, a lot of places could even be described as sweatshops. I don't think automation is bad. What is the crux of the issue, however, is the way the system is set up so that it's hard to achieve a higher education. No one should have to come out of college with debt up to their eyeballs, even before they've started their career. And that's just the truth of the matter. It's also pretty interesting to see the way the past imagined clothing in the future. Most envision tightly fitting one pieces, many resembling uniforms, and to me this is the most perplexing. I would think we would go in the opposite direction. Most today complain of wearing tight-fitting, uncomfortable clothes, and a lot of people are looking for fashionable and unique ways to style their clothes. Clothes really haven't changed a whole lot since even the 50s, though they've definitely gotten a lot more casual. But maybe they are onto something with tight-fitting clothes, as sportswear has definitely made a huge impact. I remember that when I was in just 8th grade about 12 years ago, we had to do this project where we made predictions about the future. One of my predictions I remember was that sportswear would be super popular, but people would try to make it more high fashion. During this time, sportswear as a trend staple was just popping off, with kids usually wearing Nike socks, Nike slides, basketball shorts, etc. But it was very mushed together. There was no careful thought behind it, which bugged me at the time. And it's funny to think that my predictions have kind of come true. And I think we are definitely heading further in that direction. Comfort and trendy styles mixed together. It's always been really fascinating to me imagining the ways that the future could be. I wonder if our current predictions of the future will come to fruition. I guess we'll have to see when the time comes. Hopefully we don't die from like a nuclear bomb or something before that. So I guess if the time comes.